is the MIAA Weekly.
Hello, I am MIAA Weekly host Matt Witwicky. I am not joined yet by my expert in crime here, Jon Dykstra. I will go ahead, guys, and start off a little bit of our show without him. For those who are in the comments, feel free to go ahead and put some things in there. We're going to go ahead and kind of start on off our show here by talking a little bit about the MIAA out of conference tracker. I'm sure Mike Racy would love the fact that we're mentioning this, but the conference started off 4-6 week one, and we had was there a bit of a panic meter going on in the MIAA after the first week of play. Then the conference rebounds 3-1 against out of conference competition here to bring it to a 7-7 slate as we're kind of taking a look at things. So an interesting situation where the conference, we've talked about it for a long time, the MIAA being the best conference in Division II, and that opening weekend didn't feel awesome in regards to, the results for the conference, and some all top 5 teams in the conference suffered a setback, but nice recovery a week later. And I'm sure my guy Jon Dykstra, when he joins us, if you know him, he'll have plenty to say about that. Let's go ahead and move on to the MIAA athletes of the week on the football side. Tillman Martin, freshman out of Liberty North High School, state champion, all-state player, had a monster game for Missouri Southern. 446 yards passing, 4 scores through the air, 1 with his feet, only 1 interception in their win. We'll talk about that a little more later, maybe even have a special guest other than Dykstra. That should get some people excited. We also had Tadarian Pardee and we had John Johnson both get awarded for defensive player of the week and special teams athlete of the week. As we had a block kick at the end of a game, not to mention John Johnson had 13 stops for Fort Hays. And we're going to see a little bit of video of the two are kind of what we're going to call high-profile games this week, where we had Pitt State going against UCO, and we also had Colorado State Pueblo going against Fort Hays. So as we're moving on through so far, let's go ahead and kind of check on out the first game we're going to speak to before we bring in a special guest tonight. And that first game is Pitt State and Central Oklahoma. As we take a look here, this was a game we weren't real sure coming on in. Both teams that felt like were maybe playing for their playoff lives, because if you have 2 losses right away, that's a bad thing. But I tell you, with the strength of schedule of Pitt State, even though they've got 2 setbacks, I think they still may be okay here in this race, and it seems like most of what they have is still in front of them. But let's go ahead and take a little bit of look at some video that we have from the contest between Pitt and UCO. And we go ahead right away, starting off with Jalen Cottrell, and Cottrell goes ahead, gets loose right away for UCO, and they score. They're up 7-0 immediately. And it's one of those deals where maybe is this the team that we were expecting all along when it comes to this squad. And you'll see the move that he goes ahead and puts right here on his defender, right there. And when he gets into open space, he's a real handful. Now, moving forward in this game, Jed Huff gets hit really hard right here. Does not return in the ball game after that. He took 2 big shots on that drive. Complete pass, fumble, and a score here by Montrell Lee. Wild play right there where UCO ends up going up 2 scores in the contest. And you see Jeff is down there. Hope that he has a chance to return, but that didn't look real good there. 17-3 ball game, but Pitt all of a sudden making a run here. You get a chance to see some of the offensive weaponry that, I think they look all the better this time around versus a year ago where we had some concerns about their offense. And as we're seeing, ongoing here in the highlights, Jackson Berry, new quarterback for him, 23 of 38 for 234 and a touchdown. And in steps Clark Kent. No. In the ball game, as we're looking at it here, something that we didn't really expect, that they're going to have to go to their second string quarterback, UCO does. And as we're looking at it, Clayton Creasy scores right there, a big touchdown to put them up 8 in this contest. But Pitt keeps on coming, and Barry goes ahead and gets loose, makes a huge play with his feet. And a lot of big plays being made by Pitt here, but they miss a chip shot at the end, and UCO ends up winning the game as a result. So big result in not only the conference, but nationally as well. You go ahead and you see UCO then has since moved ahead of Pitt State in our national ranking. But at the same time, we still have Pitt State ranked, which is a little bit of a something that our let's just say our followers have been giving us a hard time about that, saying how are they ranked at 0-2? And the reason why is because these aren't standings we're looking at. We feel, this is our opinion, that they are still a top 25 squad in Division II. And we're going to kind of stay with that. Now, if they go 0-3, I think we're probably getting a little tested in that that line of thinking at that point. After 3 games, you have to reach the pay window at some point. Let's go ahead and move on forward to Fort Hays going into Pueblo. Fort Hays was hurting after their kind of one-sided defeat with Angelo right away in the season. And then we have CSU Pueblo, who looked like they were riding high, and all of a sudden we've got a pretty big upset on our hands. CSU Pueblo, almost 500 yards of offense, fair amount of self-inflicted wounds. They also had trouble with 3 extra points, ends up kind of hurting them a little bit in this contest. And Fort Hays, Caleb Heavner just kept taking the ball near the end of the game, getting the tough yards on some big carries. And we're going to watch some of that real quick, Fort Hays. And you can see Reggie Ratzlaff, one of the top wideouts in Division II, at the top of the screen, comes up with a catch. Did leave the game with an injury early second quarter. Hip drop tackle kind of took him down, and he did not return to action. But Fort Hays continues to battle here. They were, I thought, very game throughout. Every time they got down a score or two, they battled right on back. Pueblo was kind of the one running the pace here in this one, and making a little bit of a game of chase. But Fort Hays with a great fake kick right before half for the extra for a field goal. They end up getting a touchdown out of it. Really big exchange. Fuller gets loose here from the quarterback position. Roman Fuller does. I didn't know he really had this in him. It play took a little while to get over the sideline, but he scores. And Hays comes back with an answer early fourth quarter. They're down 8. They bowl their way in for a score. Now they're chasing 2, and the decision is, do you go for 2 right now, or do you go ahead and just go for the 1 point? And they decide that they're going to go for 2. Interestingly enough, you go ahead and you see we're going to roll right, and we're going to kind of throw back on the screen. Well done play. I like it. Great time for it. And we're all tied up with 12 minutes left on a Thursday night game where it's been raining a whole bunch. And Fort Hays drives down the field and scores. And after the rain delay, Pueblo scores a touchdown right here. Wild game here. They go for the extra point to even us up at 36. That never happens. Ball never makes it past the front line, and all of a sudden we've got Fort Hays with one of their biggest upsets that I can recall, right there at Pueblo in that contest. Heck of a ball game, and really, really big win for Fort Hays. After losing week 0, I should say, they moved back to 1-1, and they played it. Everybody's talking about how Pitt State has played such a tough slate, and they absolutely have. But Fort Hays has played Angelo State, who's now ranked in the top 10, and they've played at CSU Pueblo. That might be almost every bit as tough. So let's move on from those contests. Then we have a game coming up here with a squad that struggled to find the win column a year ago, already has two this year. Missouri Southern wins 38-31 in a contest with Southwest Baptist. And you know that we talked a moment ago about how they get player of the week. Offensively, they've got a lot of good things going here. Now, my guy John Dykstra will be joining us here shortly, guys. And I can tell you, he wants nothing more than to be able to be around for what we're going to do next, which is I'm going to speak with head coach of Missouri Southern, Atiba Bradley. Coach, we get you on, and my guy Dykstra's not even here for you. What's that about?
I don't know, man. He's got to check his priorities.
Well, you know what? We're going to have a post game meeting ourselves, Coach. We'll have to talk about that a little bit. But, Coach, you win 38-31. You guys put up a ton of offense. You're pretty comfortably in this game. Then it gets a little bit closer towards the end. Kind of what was your take of that contest, looking at it back, 48 hours later?
Yeah, really I saw a really talented and mature team. We were up 21-3, driving the ball to go up 28-3, and we fumble on the 1 yard line or on the goal line. And I think at that moment, even though we fumbled, we had moved straight down the field. So I think there was a little bit of, oh, we got this. And you can preach it till you're blue in the face, but guys got to learn the lesson that, we don't play non-scholarship schools. They got good players. They got good coaches. It was their first home game. It was the head coach's first game of his stint there at SBU. So, it's like, hey, guys, they're not going to quit. And so that fumble gave them a little bit of life. We had a kickoff returned on us that gave them a little bit more life. And so
right before half, right?
Yeah. And so all of a sudden, for those of you that don't think momentum's a real thing, they went into half going, oh, we got this. We can take these guys. And so what we did is we found ourselves in a ball game. But the thing that I think was different for our ball club from a year ago is no one panicked. No one panicked. No one batted an eye. We had to get ourselves refocused, and we finished the game.
Coach, I guarantee you everyone who's watching this right now needs to know a little bit more about this guy right here. Tillman Martin has come on in and kind of help ignite you guys a bit here. We mentioned he's from Liberty North High School in the suburban Kansas City area. Tell us a little bit more about your signal caller.
Just an incredibly mature young man. He enrolled early. He joined us in the spring, and right away, he was asking, hey, is it okay if I move off campus? And it's like, how many 18-year-olds that haven't graduated high school are prepared to move off campus and can support themselves? And so he carries himself way past his actual age. He walks around the halls like he's a junior or a redshirt sophomore that's been in your program for 3 years. And so he went and he battled in the spring for the job, and the battle continued in the fall, and he won the job and was told that he won the job probably 3 days before our first game. And I don't think he's looking back, and I don't think he's looking to hand it over anytime soon.
Did you have some concerns over the idea of giving him the keys to the car and what the perception of the rest of your offense and football team, what they would think about that?
No, I think we got a really supportive offense. You've got a good receiver core that's, Draper Parker's in his fifth year, Isaiah Green in his third year, Isaiah Padello and Aiden Robinson. A lot of guys in their third and fourth year. And so, they were going to support whoever was out there. The O-line was going to support whoever was out there. And so my philosophy too is if you've got a young guy that's close, let's get all these mistakes out and let's see what we got, and so he he won the job, and like I said, there it ain't been pretty. There've been some moments where we were a little worried about him, but no, he's done a nice job handling himself.
Well, Coach, I need to inquire with you. Your first week of the season, you guys play Midwestern State, a squad that a season ago you guys had a setback with, a game that you probably felt like you should have had. What was the difference for you guys between last year's game and this time around?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think our team last year, so 2 years ago, we were coming off of being 5-6, and we had lost maybe 3 games by a single score. So 5-6 easily could have been 7-4. Well, it could have been 4-7, but we felt really good. We were returning a lot of guys, and quite frankly, I think we kind of got full of ourselves. And so we went down there assuming that we were just going to go out there and walk through this Midwestern State team. And quite frankly, they brought it. I mean, they matched our intensity. They matched our physicality. And they went blow for blow with us. And again, we found ourselves on the road in a dogfight, and we came up a little bit short.
Fair enough. Coaches, as I go ahead and I take a look at your club, I think that your team has a certain identity, and there's a certain player in mind that I think of when we get here. And you know, Nathan Glades has gone through plenty of adversity up until this point, just to make sure that he can finish on the field and everything else with injury. And can you tell our audience a little bit about Nathan, if you would?
Special young man. He wears a shirt that he's had since high school that says RTS, raise the standard. And this young man, I'm sure he's had some bad days, but he doesn't show it. You're talking about a guy that 2 years ago he had a back concussion and immediately asked for a headset and a visor so he could help coach the 2 freshman running backs that we put out there. Then, you know, he comes back and he tears his ACL, and same type deal. He wasn't with us as much because he was doing his physical therapy, but he was training hard. He was getting his body back in shape, and he's a worker. And I think he's motivated that he wants to finish his career the right way. He came out as a true freshman and you could tell he was special. And then his sophomore year, he was a little bit better. And then he's just been riddled with injuries the last 2 years, and now he's back healthy, and just a pleasure to be around this young man.
And that many running backs in the MIAA are sitting there at about 100 yards from scrimmage each of the first 2 games, or somewhere in that neighborhood. So he's already off to a fantastic start. Coaches, as we go ahead and we look at, what do you feel after 2 games that your squad needs to do better heading into MIAA play? You've got enough in you right now, and you've had some competitive games. These aren't one of those things where you have a blowout and you don't learn anything from it.
Yeah.
Where have you learned so far in your 2 contests, and what do you feel you need the most to work on?
Yeah, you know, honestly, I think the biggest thing that we need to work on is just our focus. I think our coaches do a great job all week preparing guys and getting them ready to go and getting them locked in. And like I said, I think when we experience some success, we go up a couple scores. I think our focus starts to wander just a touch. And you know, I agree with you. You don't want to blow out where you learn nothing, but at the same time, I want to blow out because our guys kept their foot on their throat and they finished them off. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing is, like, guys, we're about to go in the MIAA. There's no poorly coached teams. There's no teams that are just going to go, oh, it's the Lions. All right, then we'll let them win. You know, we're going to have to go out and earn every yard that we get, every takeaway that we get, every defensive stop that we get. We're going to have to go out and take it. Nobody's going to give us anything. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just learning how to just keep your foot on the pedal. I tell the guys, keep your head down, keep working, and then at the end, we'll look at the scoreboard.
Absolutely. taking a look, you kind of referenced, you guys obviously have your upcoming schedule in the MIAA, and we can go ahead and see you guys are on a bye this week. So you guys are just sitting with your feet up watching football. No, but
I wish.
guys, everybody who's watching, that's what Coach said in the green room before we came on. But no, Coach, the first thing I see is a squad that I got a chance to see at Mankato in week 0. I got a chance to talk with Coach Mack, and week 0, Northwest was really not who they wanted to be, and they'll be the first to say that. This last week, all of a sudden they got both quarterbacks going on, and it felt like a little bit more in defensively where they wanted to be. Boy, I tell you, you've got a whole lot to soak in here between the Mankato game and their game with Washburn. What do you take when you look at when you're kind of eyeing up this opponent upcoming?
Yeah, I think it's hard. Anytime you face a new head coach, new coordinators, they're always going to start slow. And the team that they were in week 0 or week 1, it's not who they'll be in 2, not who they'll be in 3. Sometimes with an older team and a new or the same staff and the same scheme, they come out and they come guns a-blazing, and their identity is set early because they're returning so much. This is a new 2 deep. This is a new head coach. This is new coordinator. So the coordinators are still learning their players. Their players are still learning their coordinators. And so they're going to just keep taking leaps. I wouldn't be shocked to see them a better version of themselves by week 4 or 5. And so we just hopefully we can catch them on the rise before they peak.
Sure. You know what? I have a broader question for you, Coach, about the MIAA this year. The MIAA used to feel like the defense was more the premium than the offense. You meet some of these teams in the playoffs and good luck moving the ball on them, physicality, everything else that goes with that. It feels like the offenses in the MIAA have kind of taken things up a notch. How do you see the identity of the conference and kind of what it's been maybe ever since COVID, one way or the other?
Yeah, I think it's swinging quite a bit. And I think a large part of that is the result of COVID. But if you'll remember right, COVID was coupled with the transfer portal.
Yeah, it sure was.
And so if you remember right, like the history of the MIAA, the teams were built on 3rd and 4th year O linemen and D linemen. And so as a freshman, you came in, you weren't going to start on offense or defensive line because those were those spaces were reserved for 20, 21, 20-year-old men who have been playing football and training in their programs for 3 or 4 years. And so I think what you're seeing now is it's hard to keep an O lineman around and a D lineman around for 3, 4, 5 years. And you can kind of see that at Northwest. I mean, Rich Wright leaves and a whole bunch of D linemen all of a sudden find themselves at Division I.
Up here, Coach Rob Matt in South Dakota, Kobe Claiborne is at South Dakota State, and you know what? Yep. He's up there for an All-American. And people have come to me, Coach, and said, I know that you remember him in D2. Does this surprise you? And I said, he comes from a program and a conference where nothing of this surprises me.
Yep. And I don't want to date myself or say back in the day, but back in the day when I played here in 01 and 05, I think about all those kids that played in the MIAA because there was no FCS presence in Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas. I mean, there was,
you're right.
South Dakota State, North Dakota State were all Division II. And Missouri State, hopefully they're not watching, but back in 01, 02, 03, they were terrible. I mean, so no one knew Missouri Valley football. You knew Missouri Valley baseball and basketball, but you never talked about Missouri Valley football. Well, then all of a sudden, all the Dakotas and that I-29 corridor goes Division I, and they start recruiting the same kids. So the kids that were high level D2 players are all of a sudden FCS players. And so I think our league took a hit then, and then, like I said, I think our league took another hit with the portal and the ability to transfer. And so it'll be interesting to see how people sustain that, because there's so much newness on everybody's roster right now.
Our founder, Brandon Meisner, who is a Northwest Missouri State graduate, I can still see him texting me, Witt, tell the Jackrabbits to get the hell out of Omaha. But Coach, one last question for you. One of our viewers, Reed Jorgensen, has a question. I'll read it for you, Coach. Yeah, because it made me smell on your screen. As someone who doesn't know much about this year's Lions team, what is something that is important to know about your team to look out for? Thank you, Reed.
Yeah, I would tell Reed, this team has a really good blend of a chip on their shoulder, confidence, and respect. And what I mean by that is, we're not going into any game fearing any opponent. We're not shaking in our boots about any team. But we have a healthy respect for our league, and we have a healthy respect for the coaches and players in our league, and we know that there's good football. But we also know we're capable of being a really, really good football, and I think that's where the confidence comes from. But it's not so much confidence that we're walking around going, "Oh, nobody can judge. We're going to be the," you know what I mean? I think you got to have that blend of playing with a chip on your shoulder, saying, "Hey, look what we can do," but at the same time, have confidence in yourself to say, "Hey, look what we can do," if that makes sense.
You want your team to be supremely confident within and still be able to have a little swagger, no doubt about it. So, well, Coach, greatly appreciate you making time for us tonight. I'll let my guy John Dykstra reach out to you with his apologies for not being here in time to go ahead and chat with you. But you know what? For all of our fans watching, look out for this Lions squad. They are on the rise here. And Coach, good luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, hey, just a quick shout out. I appreciate what you guys are doing for the MIAA and Division II. Again, back in my day, we knew what D2 football was, and I think we just need to continue to put it on a pedestal for everybody else, that D2 is just as legit as a lot of these other Division I leagues.
Well, Coach, hope to have you back again next year. Good luck the rest of the way.
Appreciate it.
Atiba Bradley, fun team to watch right now, guys, and they're heading on into MIAA play, and they will be going up against some squads like Northwest Missouri State upcoming. And as we head on in, and we're going to talk about Northwest, I'm gonna pause for a moment while my guy John is still on his way, and yes, guys, John will be joining the show. We do have some folks who are asking about you, John. This is not like usual where they could care less if you hear one way or the other. But let's go ahead and Doug mentions, John, are you going to join us tonight or what? We'll see, hopefully. Let's go ahead and talk for a moment about some discussion items here. Reed has got, actually, you know what? I'm going to bring up Wesley's question, and this is kind of for everybody to take a look at. Last year's Washburn almost beat Mines. This year, they beat Truman and then got whipped by Northwest Missouri. I've heard they lost key players to the portal. How do you size up their chances against Mines? Wesley, I think it's really kind of too early to make some judgments on this at this point. I think with a new coach in there, you're going to, every time you have a coaching change, you're going to lose some bodies in the portal inescapably. Their top wideout from a year ago, whose name escapes me, he was on our Elite 100 team. I think he's a huge loss for them offensively. But at the same time, the way that they played Truman gave me a lot of confidence on the team they can be. But at the same time, I was a little shocked that Northwest did to them, what they did in this contest, where they won 34-7 in the manner they did. Now, Northwest is still figuring out what they're doing with the 2 quarterback system. But Wesley, go ahead. Let's check back in a few weeks when we've got a little bit bigger sample size to see how productive this offense can be. And maybe we'll have an answer, by then. Now, Reed's also got a question for us that I thought was kind of interesting. Was UCO just looking ahead to Pitt in week 0, meaning their loss to UTPB? I think there's a few things that happen here, Reed. First of all, the game time gets moved up from 6 o'clock to noon. And while the temperature looks like it wasn't a whole lot different at one versus the other, it was 90 degrees no matter what. They had rain and storms expected later, which is why they moved the contest up down at UTPB. I frankly, though, there's a disruption in some of the way you go about your business and so forth, moving it on up to that early a time when you're on the road. But at the same time, I just think that UTPB was a little bit better football team than maybe UCO was expecting. I think a lot of people here were surprised by that outcome. Now, I had that game picked, and Dykstra has yet to give me credit for it in our pick'em, but we'll talk about that later when I give him a hard time about that. But I don't know. I don't know if we really are going to know, Reed, for a little bit of time how good UCO really is. They got up 2 scores in their contest a week ago, and then just kind of hung on at the end. If Jet Huff is out for a while, which we're going to expect given the nature of, it looked like an upper body injury from the video and when he took both of those shots. It's hard to think that, they're just going to be able to not miss a beat. With the way that offense is, fairly complex and how much they throw, I think they're going to have a heavy reliance on the run game. Pitt will. But then, or UCO, I should say. But then Pitt, well, we'll get to them. We don't really know exactly what we've got with them right at this time. As I go ahead and we kind of move on through a little bit of our material, and guys, I'm kind of just putting things up and taking a look at what we have going forward. Joe asks, so will it be a shootout at Pitt? Well, Joe, we're going to get to that game here shortly when Dykstra arrives, but needless to say, that's a heck of a ball game that we've got upcoming. For those who are just tuning in, don't know what we're talking about, we've got Grand Valley making the trip into Pitt State. I mean, Pitt State with the start of the season, I don't know if we'll ever talk about another campaign like the one they started off with here. But Joe, don't be afraid to offer some of your thoughts when we get to that game as to how you see that one going. I don't think that Grand Valley necessarily that we know enough about them just yet, but I think that I like what I see offensively, Joe, quite a bit more than what I saw a year ago when it felt like they were really struggling when they had to truly score points. They weren't able to throw the ball like they wanted to, and I think this year is different. I think everybody's much more accustomed to what Schumacher wants to do offensively as the OC, and I think they're in a much better place, so it's going to make for a heck of a ball game. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on with some of the outcomes from last week, and by the time John rumbles in, we'll go ahead and start talking about the upcoming games that we had. So as you guys can see here, Northwest, not a ton to be said here other than they had both quarterbacks going and about equal amounts. And, as we've talked about, one more a little bit passer, more a little bit of a runner. I kind of like the mix and the offering they get there. I was more impressed, though, with Northwest's ability to keep Washburn, at kind of arm's length in this game and then end up winning 34-7. I think that's got to be really encouraging for Bearcat fans on the defensive side. Moving through the other contests we have Angelo State and Emporia State. Now, Emporia State a week ago got off to a great start, hitting that short passing game and really getting things clicking against Minot and kind of burying them early. Unfortunately for Emporia, that's exactly what happened with Angelo, but Angelo was out 27 rip in the first quarter. And now Braden Fuller, the quarterback for Angelo, did go down. We're not sure what the situation with that is in a week where a lot of really key players ended up getting injured. But Emporia State, I think, just got hit by a team that might be a top 5 kind of ball club this year. And if so, I mean, we have them, I think, 6 or 7 in our poll right now. And they right now, if we really take a look at it, guys, the 2 teams they've beaten, Emporia and Hayes, they've beaten by 20 each. This looks like a very good ball club who we already thought was a great squad defensively. Now they're putting up some points and being able to use the passing game. That makes for a very dangerous Lone Star squad, and one that might end up running the table down there in that conference. And if they do, you would see them probably hosting a playoff game, given the strength of schedule they would have and so forth. We've talked a little bit, guys, about what the super region number 4 is going to look like, and everyone just kind of has in their mind that it's going to be MIAA Harding, maybe a team out in the RMAC or two. The Lone Star has gotten a little bit dismissed in that conversation, and I think Angelo State could very much have a lot to do with what that playoff scene ends up looking like and who needs to travel where. As we continue on through the contests, Nebraska Kearney ends up winning. They're the state champs of Nebraska, having beaten Wayne State in the week 0, and then beat Chadron pretty handily here by 20 in this contest. 2 huge ball games for recruiting and bragging rights in the state of Nebraska. And it's awesome that we have these games where you can go ahead and get some non-con that really goes ahead and helps put butts in seats when you're going to go ahead and look for good attendance. And both squads are really fired up for the game. So all of that stuff is a win-win here. The Good Life Trophy is what the Lopers walk away with, and now they're off to a 2-0 start as they head on into MIAA play. We will talk more about them as the show continues. So let's go ahead and we're going to pause for a moment, and feel free, guys, to go ahead and throw in any questions you have or comments as we go. Looking at this here, and John has mentioned in the chat at 8:05 Central that he is on his way. John's probably picking up some Wendy's, like a Frosty, maybe some double cheeseburgers, or maybe that's where my mind is at right now, not having eaten dinner yet. But looking at the standings in the conference, not a whole lot to take away just yet. Very little has actually transpired here conference-wise. The overall record at this point is probably a little bit more important, but keep in mind now that we have a conference champ in all 16 leagues getting awarded a playoff spot, the idea of starting off 0-1 in conference isn't the end of the world, because you know that there's going to be plenty of these teams that are going to beat each other as we move through, move through the season. But as we take a look at it right now, the only 2 squads that are unbeaten in the MIAA right now are Missouri Southern and Nebraska Kearney. If you had that on your bingo card, just saying. Let's go, kind of move on over to one last thing before we get into any of our games, which is our new top 25. So for those who didn't get a chance to see this drop on Monday, as we take a look at the graphic, the MIAA kind of impact within the graphic, if we go ahead and move through lines 1 and 2, no MIAA team there because they've already had some losses. You go ahead and you see at UCO at 12, they have kind of gotten a jolt back on up. They've now played the 10th ranked team and the 16th ranked team in our poll, so that strength of schedule is very high. Then you move down the line to 16 is where we ended up moving Pitt State down to, which I would imagine Pitt State being at 16. I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen more of the pitchforks here in the comments with regard to that. But as I alluded to earlier, this is not standings. This is how good we feel these teams are. And this tells you that we think Pitt State would fare well against any team at their same position or lower in the top 25. So feel free to take a look at that graphic and tell me who you would have 17 through 25 beaten Pitt State on a neutral field. I'm not sure if you're going to come up with anybody on that list. As we kind of continue through, I noticed here in the comments that certainly we've got Fort Hays. We have put back in, by the way, because before I jump back in the comments, Fort Hays has gone ahead and played what do we have here? Fort Hays has played the 13th ranked team right there. And the 8th ranked team. So once again, high strength of schedule so far, and they're 1-1 in those contests. Now, if I go ahead, I do want to bring up, this is something that Chip Holbert mentioned. Findlay beat you Indy. Chip, I'm with you on that observation. This tells me that the rest of our voters didn't have Findlay right on the cusp of getting in. So there's going to be teams that will upset somebody who's in the top 25, but that doesn't mean we just automatically vault them on in if we didn't necessarily come in with them being right in that immediate group. Findlay is the kind of team who would be in that next grouping, but you take a look at Findlay's last year and had 2 losses where they kind of got beaten handily in games that they had to win one of those to make the playoffs. And I think they kind of fell off the page a little bit, Chip. So as we're taking a look going forward, I think that if Findlay goes ahead and continues to prove themselves, I think you're going to see them approaching that line there from 21 through 25. And knowing that we have contests like Ashland against Indy coming up, we're going to have to see which one of those two teams would hang in the top 25. And that's where you may see a Findlay come on in. But there's a little more depth to, I think, how the voters are going to look at this. Now, I will go ahead and take a look at something separately that Joe brings up while we have the top 25. I think it's a valid point. Now, I have seen a few other polls out there, whether it's the coaches poll that still has Valdosta in the top 25. I don't understand that. But I do see something like this with Michigan Tech. Michigan Tech, I think, Joe, has even a bigger thing of people not being able to trust it in the past. Meaning, if you look in the last handful of years, maybe their top season would be, let's say, a 7-4 kind of campaign. Given the fact that Bemidji is 0-2, and they just don't look like the same squad, and frankly, if you look at the program, they aren't. I think the upside on that, Joe, is kind of faded a bit. And then South Dakota Mines, you go there and win big, but I got a feeling, unfortunately for Charlie Floor there and company, there's going to be some other teams that are going to go there probably and win big. So I do like Michigan Tech and the way they're trending, Joe, without a doubt. I'm not ready to have them quite in that poll just yet. I did see Flow Sports had a poll that came out the other day where they had Michigan Tech in the 15, I think. That seems a little bit ambitious to me. When you look at the other teams that are right around there in our poll, I be frank, I don't have them winning a game like that. And then I also saw, what was it? Minnesota State Moorhead. I'm a Northern Sun guy, but they've beaten 2 teams that didn't win a football game last year. Let's not give too much credit for that. When they're coming off a 500 season a year ago, I love me some Jack Strand. I really think that he is maybe right now the front runner for the Harlan Hill. when you consider notoriety matched up with performance. I think that it's hard not to have him near the top, but once again, he's going to need to show that he can do a little bit more against the Augustanas, the Mankato's, the Sioux Falls, the Duluths. They don't play Augie this year, so he doesn't have that. But if I'm going to be honest, they have a lighter schedule. Moorhead does, and by the time we end up getting to the end of season when we're looking at potential playoff spots, their strength of schedule is going to be down quite a bit. There's no way around that. So, Joe, I gave you a really drawn long answer to that. I'm sorry. And Dykstra has offered. He's not here, but he's here, guys. I don't know what that's about. He said he had Tech at 25. John stays very much in his Midwest area, and I give him a hard time about things like this. But let's go ahead while we're taking a look at some questions while John kind of sneaks in. Chris Botsford, Witt, what MIAA team has surprised you thus far and you feel can keep their mojo going? Ooh, you know what? Let me kind of take a quick look at the teams. The Lopers from Nebraska Kearney, I think, play a physical enough style and are going to be the kind of squad that could absolutely end up being over 500 when a lot of people didn't think they could. So that's the first one that comes to mind for me. Having seen Missouri Western up close, I think that they are a very good team. And a team, frankly, that I thought probably should have beaten Augustana in that first game of the season, but kind of let them off the hook, and Augie took advantage of that. Those would be the ones that I really think of. I'll be honest, guys, I have no idea what to think of Northwest Missouri State right now. I'm not sure if they have an idea what to think of them yet because they've had two much different football games. But I like Coach Mack a lot and what I think he's doing with that program. I think their defense is going to be the difference. Can they be still a top defensive team in the MIAA? If they can, they move on up at a time where I don't think a lot of people are going to expect for them to be in that top few. I'm going to go ahead and pull that on down. And Tiffin, best GMAC team. I tend to agree with you. I think that they've got some of the best talent. They've got a handful of guys that are all conference, all American type conversation players. And, you got a good quarterback. You got an outstanding running back. Blackman at running back might be as good a running back as anybody in Division II. And I do kind of struggle, though, Chip, because I think they're going to have their hands full at Ferris State upcoming. But I think that they also can throw the ball well enough that there's a chance that they can hang around. I'm curious to see what that defense can go ahead and do in that contest. Ferris is they're doing something totally differently, but they're doing it really good. So, well, guys, John should be here literally any second. I'm not sure. He must be picking up food at this point. Before we get into games, I want some thoughts here by our comments area. This is the helmet that Pitt State will be wearing this weekend. This is the Silverback helmet. In the opener last year against Ferris, it was in black in color. This year it's red in color. I think for me it pops a little bit more on the lid in this one here. So and Reed, as a Northwestern guy, of course, Reed offers some thoughts. Reed, I didn't expect for you to be in love with it. Dykstra, by the way, in case those people are keeping tabs on him, he said he'll be here in 1 minute. But I do kind of like this. I'm not sure though. I need to see the entire outfit with it, guys, to be really honest. So But we like to point out different things like this. See, my guy Chip's with me. Chip, thank you for being there with me. And Chip, tomorrow night, I want to chime in real quick. Tony and I will be on. We may be on a little bit later than normal. I know he's got a flight coming back for his real job. And he mentioned that he ran on into you, Chip. And so feel free to be in the comments tomorrow. Yeah, just wanted to point that on out. So as we're going ahead and moving into Dykstra territory, I do momentarily want to mention two things upcoming on the show yet. We will unveil JD's MIAA 2025 power rankings in the MIAA. Okay. So think of how you would have them. We're going to go over what he came up with. Always controversial anytime he's got one of these takes. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Monday Night Football game briefly. He's a Vikings fan. I'm a Bears fan. It's a tough deal, and I might have a few things to say about that contest. He might have even called me out on social media as well in regards to that after the game last night. Cheap shot. But let's go. I see Dykstra joining right now. Social media as well. And we hear you echoing because you must have me on my phone. Media foul you are. Let's go. I see Dykstra joining right.
Sorry, I had to fix the volume still getting used to it.
John Dykstra's first day on a podcast. We're popping on in.
I forgot the volume was off on my computer. My bad.
Dykstra, we other than the heavy breathing, how are you doing?
I made it. The marathon softball game finally ended. Platte Valley beat Northeast Nottoway 10-8. Anybody curious? Read about it tomorrow in the paper.
Not curious at all, actually. But
I didn't figure many were, but it was a long one. So yeah, we made it through. I've decided to wear the frontwards hat for Laker because he was giving me a hard time the other day about always with the backwards hat. So
what's on the brim? Is that wallpaper? What is that?
it's a little.
It is wallpaper. Okay.
Yeah, basically.
Judder says my respect level for Dykstra just skyrocketed. Don't feed him. Don't feed him like that. But before we get an MIAA action, screw it. Let's go right to it.
I'm proud of you filibustering. By the way, that was a Mr. Wiki goes to MIAA weekly type of performance.
Well, in the comments they actually had there was a lot of feedback that said it's better without Dykstra.
It's good deal. I'm fine with it.
Okay, so I'll give you a chance to catch your breath. And because of the fact that I know you want to gloat here and unpack all of this,
man.
So Dykstra last night, as I'm getting ready to go to bed, this pops up on my phone because, of course, he has to tag me. It's like it didn't happen if he doesn't. And so his 12-year-old quarterback, his new quarterback,
12-year-old with that kind of clutch gene. It's going to be a good next.
It was going against the Bears defense. What are we talking about? Clutch gene here. What are we doing? So Caleb Williams, I just want to go on record as a Bears fan. I was never on board with this. When they were thinking of drafting him, I was wringing my hands because I saw all of these behaviors from him that I didn't care for. He was all about me and talking about how good the team's going to be when he gets there. And I was just like, oh, no, we're not doing this, really. And so they did it. And last night, John, you watch him when he's kind of going by what we need him to do. I say that sounds bad as a Bears fan.
You and Ben Johnson what you guys need him.
Yeah, well, he's on my list too. But anyway,
that's good.
He needs Dan Campbell over his shoulder, but he ain't got him now. So, he played well within himself at the beginning of the game. 10 for his first 10 or whatever it was. Then when he's going to go ahead and start running around trying to do too much, and he steps out of bounds when he goes to make a throw. I mean, you're just
good.
When he starts going wrong, dumpster fire is what I think of. And yeah. So Doug says no, it's not better without John. Don't feed him like that. But so
Doug, I guess some power rankings you're gonna like here pretty quick. So
don't worry, I already teased him when you were busy getting your audio.
I was listening, as you can tell by my commenting.
Yes.
On my drive back from Ravenwood with the slowest traffic there ever has been. You didn't know we have traffic in Northwest Missouri, did you?
Well, we figured you had stopped at Wendy's and picked up food and a bunch of other things.
If only. I'm in your same boat. I have not partaked yet. So
the people in the comments all were trying to figure out what you were eating for dinner because it took so damn long. But
if you got some good ideas, let me know.
Atiba got tired of waiting. By the way, he just said the heck with you.
I don't blame him. Atiba's my guy. I'm kind of regretful that I missed that, but I'm sure you guys had a great chat, and I'm glad you had somebody to pass the time with, especially.
Well, you'll get a chance to watch it later when you're bored.
Now it's like I get to be on a podcast and then listen to it after, so that'll be fun.
Well, since I did it solo, it was the best one we could have done. So
I was going to Doug, my guy Doug.
So enough about your Vikings.
I was going to say I came on and we started talking NFL, so I'm sure the D2 fans love that. So
yeah. Here we go. Now we're just going to start the whole show over. We're going to bring Atiba back. We'll see if here we go. Week 2 matchups, Thursday night game, guys. This is going to be happening, in 2 nights. I love these Thursday games early season. I'm all for it.
That's great.
Give me some of your thoughts about this one, buddy. It's time for you to go from playing person who covers softball and being a homer for the Vikings to actually being our MIAA expert.
Gotcha. Well, this one's interesting. The mystery team, as we've been talking about for weeks at end now, UCM has still only played 1 game. So I'm curious in this one to see how they perform. Delta was a good team. This, to me, is a step up from Delta. So you can probably tell where my pick is going. But I think you get an angry Thunderwolves team. It's a long trip to Warrensburg, but I don't see them losing 2 games in a row. And I think the Thunderwolves bounce back with a big win. They've got some questions. I mean, Reggie Ratzlaff is as good a player as there is in D2. And to my knowledge, his status is still up in the air for this one. So him playing matters a lot, but I still think Pueblo has enough to get the job done, even if they don't have him. But it's definitely a fun Thursday night game and one that with no other MIAA games going on, a good one to check out.
No doubt. I picked this on our show the other night, Inside D2 on Sunday evening. I just feel like Pueblo I know more about what their offense can do. If Central Mo gets their offense going,
that quarterback showed some stuff.
Yeah, first team to 45 wins.
Yeah.
And Joe had asked here in the comments, what did Reggie hurt? Anyone know? Watching the game, Joe, he got hip drop tackled. So the guy was tackling him from behind and pulled back. And when he did, his foot looked like it got caught underneath his body. And if you're watching the game, you can see him for the rest of the contest standing on the sideline with a boot on one foot that goes up maybe a mid-calf, I would guess. So that's I mean, you would deduct at that point it was a foot thing. I think for precautionary reasons, maybe you don't want to fly him all the way out there, run the risk of that thing getting a little bit swelled or something. Maybe you skip this one out. I'm not real sure what their bye week looks like and everything else, but I think that he may miss a small amount of time. Maybe he ends up playing in this one, but that would definitely be something to look out for.
If Reggie's playing, I think Pueblo by a couple scores in this one. If he's not, I think UCM could possibly keep this within a score, but I think Pueblo wins either way.
Yeah, and you know what? Reed asked here, asking about the NCAA had made a decision on Reggie. Long story short, guys, Reggie was looking for a fifth year, and he was able to get a fifth campaign to play. Where we haven't really come upon exactly the answers to why that was granted to him. Let's be honest, we live in a world right now where the NCAA is a little bit gun shy when people are putting cases forward to try and get more time on the field. We saw that with the Pavia rule and things of that sort. And if I'm going to be real frank, next year, John, I think we're probably going to be looking at the 5-for-5 rule upcoming. Matter of fact, I've heard that's probably almost a done deal. And if that's the case, you're going to be looking at an athlete getting 5 seasons, 5 years, and have at it. There is not going to be redshirting anymore. And they're going to try and make it as clear cut. So there isn't, some of the stuff that happened with COVID where how long does the guy really have and all that kind of stuff. So nothing definitive. Reed came on back on that. It's a little bit hush hush if I'm going to be honest on that situation. But you know what? We're here. We are, and he's gone ahead and he's probably one of the more high profile players at our level, and certainly one of the guys who would be in the Harlan Hill conversation.
Yeah, it's just a fun matchup. If you haven't watched him play, and he does play in this game, it's a good chance to watch him play and see one of the better players at this level.
Yeah, and credit to Pueblo. If you look around, they've got some other weapons at the receiver position. It's not just Reggie. Now he changes what they can do kind of on the boundary side by himself, but still, I'm very, very curious to see how that game turns out and how the Mules look importantly in their second contest. We've got Washburn going to Colorado Mines here in this one. Colorado Mines team that kind of got things going at West Texas last week, and Bob Stitt's first win back with the program. John, what is your take on this football game? How do you see it?
I think if you're just looking at this, you're going to say, oh, a team that was in the national championship game a couple times and really and it was one of the premier programs in the RMAC against one of the bottom teams in the MIAA. But if you remember last year, this game, I mean, I was pretty vocal at the time. I thought Washburn deserved to win that game. There were a couple things that went against them. They had all the opportunities to win that game in Topeka. Now they go on the road, though, to Mines. Tough place to play. And frankly, I don't think this Washburn team's as good as they were a year ago. We can get into that a little bit more when we get to power rankings. I know they didn't finish with a great record last year, but they were competitive. And I wasn't very impressed with what I saw over the weekend when they took on Northwest. So I'm picking Mines in this one. I think Mines isn't what they were a couple of years ago, obviously, with a guy like John Matoka running around. But they're still a quality RMAC program, and I think they get the win at home. But I'll be curious to watch this because, like I said, Washburn went right with them last year, and they can put up some points offensively and through the air. It's just, man, in the trenches they are severely lacking right now compared to Northwest when we saw them last week.
When I take a look at Pueblo, Joseph Capper, the quarterback, I think that he is a young star in the making. But with the word is that, in the chat on Sunday that Flynn Sheely, who is very similar to Reggie Ratzlaff type player for Mines, may be out the rest of the season. We'll have to wait and see. So he's going to have some young wideouts that are going to have to kind of step up and make some plays. But they do have a nice running game. I have a feeling Mines ends up winning this one going away. And I think that they really make a great, strong showing for their returning head coach.
I think that would be a huge, huge statement for Mines. I think they'll want to do that, especially after last year not going the way they wanted in Topeka, despite them getting a win. So,
and we just put them in our rankings, whereas they just slid on in. I want to say they're 23, 24, something like that. And the coaches poll did not have them up there. Their coaches poll were hanging on to Valdosta at that point. But let's move on along to a game that I think is kind of interesting here. Kingsville comes up from Texas to play at Northwest Missouri State. Some would say, 10, 15, 20 years ago, this would be a more interesting game than right now.
I mean, it didn't played that long ago, so they did play each other then.
Now, Kingsville brings in a new head coach and a team that wants to sling it. Yeah. So they kind of want to be, a little bit of that air raid type of offense where they're going to throw it a ton. And Northwest now has 2 games in them. I think we're getting a better idea of their identity. What are your thoughts about Kingsville specifically, John? Have you had a chance to look into them at all?
I have. I wrote my preview article earlier this afternoon. It'll come out later in the week. But, yeah, you're right. They throw the ball. Couple Louisiana Tech transfers in there, the quarterback and one of their receivers. They were a very balanced attack against Lincoln, California. That's a little bit of I talked to Coach McMenamin earlier today about that. That's a little bit of the difficulty in this matchup is Kingsville's played 1 game, and it was against maybe the worst team in Division II.
Yeah, John. I mean, we could get people in the comments, and you and I, and we could have a balanced attack against Lincoln.
That's what I'm saying. And he was pretty honest about it. He didn't besmirch Lincoln at all, but he said there wasn't a lot on film that you can see about what they want to do, but you can tell the talent's there, and you can. They have a very good tight end, had a good day, and then they had 3 different receivers all have pretty big days against Lincoln. And you're right, they sling the ball all around with athletes, kind of similar to those Kingsville teams. I mean, the athleticism wise. You talk to those old Northwest teams, they will always tell you the most athletic teams they went against during those runs were the Kingsville teams because they were super athletic. And that's kind of what they're doing here with this air raid kind of attack, it sounds like. So I'll be curious. It's a long trip for them, obviously, to come up to Maryville, but I'll be curious how this one goes. Kingsville was picked 4th in the Lone Star to begin the year. Northwest, obviously, 5th, 6th, 4th, somewhere in that kind of mid-tier 2. So mid-tier Lone Star team in the preseason versus a mid-tier MIAA team in the preseason. That's an interesting matchup.
We've got our boy Matt Daniel in the comments. The 98 Kingsville team was huge and good. Matt showing a little bit of his age, giving you a hard time there, Matt. But I like the old school reference there.
That's where I get a lot of those people telling me that those teams were so good from Matt's podcast. So
were you even born in 98?
Done a great job. Yeah, yes, I was born in 1990. I'm old.
I graduated high school in 1990, but okay.
Well, you're older. And that doesn't
Chris,
make you old.
Old head, as the kids would say. Chris Bodsford asking, Coach Boswick running the same defensive style that Coach Wright ran. They're running a 4-man front. I know that. Yeah. Is that kind of the as you know it there, John?
It's pretty similar. I mean, you could argue that Coach Rich Wright ran a pretty similar defense to what Coach Boswick ran back in the day.
Going back a previous generation.
Yes. But yes, this has been Northwest style. That was an interesting thing that Coach McMenamin talked about today too. He said defensively, Kingsville looks a lot like Northwest. They have kind of adopted a lot of Coach Wright, Coach Boswick, that kind of style from the success that Northwest had when they were winning national championships. He said it was similar to Mankato as well.
I was just going to say, because Mankato and Sioux Falls essentially run that, both of those teams run a 4-2-5, crush the front. We're not going to let the other team run, all that.
When we were talking about the difficulty of scouting this, that was something he brought up as it's very similar to what Mankato tries to do to you. So they've had that scout kind of in a little bit.
Yeah.
Every defense has its differences, and to answer the question, there are differences but it's pretty similar, and they have very similar personnel this year because a lot of those guys stayed with Coach Boswick, and they're all their safeties are back, their linebackers are 3 seniors, they got a bunch back on the D line, so it's just very similar personnel to what they had last year.
So you're going with Kingsville.
I'm going Northwestern in this one, but I expect a very good game. I was impressed. I know I'm late to the party, so I didn't get to talk about it too much, but I was impressed with what I saw from Northwest. The big difference, they played a lot of people last week. They went deep. 11 different guys caught a pass. Obviously, they've got the 2 quarterback system going on. 8 different guys rushed the ball in that game. And Coach McMenamin talked about very openly, they are relying on their depth at this point over how he put it is he's not sure they have an All-American this year, but they have a lot of guys who care and a lot of guys that are good football players. So they're kind of leaning towards the old Golden State Warriors strength and numbers type of approach here. So that's what they're going to play, a lot of guys. And I think on a hot day in Maryville, that'll be interesting. Obviously, the heat's not going to bother Kingsville very much, but it will be a warm one up here.
What was their inside backer, Edwards? Speaking of All-Americans, was he playing or did he not play?
He played in that game, played the full game, had a sack on the first drive that really set the tone.
Wow,
and we talked to him today, and he got asked that question, how he's feeling, and he said 100% and excited to make his home debut for his senior year. So, yeah, the Niall Shewitt, the defensive tackle, Coach McMenamin called him probably their best defensive lineman. He did not play last week, and there's no real timetable on his return. His isn't a simple injury thing. There's more to that. So,
yeah, we saw that.
Anything, but more of an illness type of deal.
Yeah, and we saw that on the sideline at Mankato.
Yes.
That was probably not going to be a pop right back on our feet and go. So
yeah, he was there the other day, and looking healthy, but not ready to play yet.
Okay, so for those who are in the comments, I'm going to get some thoughts on who you have as the winner of this contest. We're going to take a look and see kind of which direction that's going. We've got Grand Valley.
Joe's here, so I think I know who he's got.
Yes, so don't worry, we'll get a chance to get to the comments, but we were doing that before you came in, by the way.
Grand Valley, you were filibustering real well. I was proud of you.
Yes. Treading water for a bit, but Grand Valley making the trip, long trip. I'm assuming a flight for sure. It sounds like our guy Tony Nicolette.
Grand Valley's got a PG, right? That
we'll be making the. What was that?
Grand Valley's got the private jet that Tony can just hop on.
I haven't asked about exactly their means of communication, but I think that Mr. Nicolette will be getting a chance to go down
to the jungle.
Hopefully he goes to what was it, Annie's?
Chicken Annie's.
Chicken Annie's. I'll have to talk to him about that.
I haven't been there yet. I need to next time make that road trip to Pitt. I'll have to do that because you've spoken highly of it.
Yes, they've got my money there, and it's kind of a smaller place, But I was sitting with Bob Eblin, our MIAA writer, and it was let's say it was very tight fit, he and I at the table, but. So Grand Valley and Pitt, Grand Valley has looked a lot better offensively than we were expecting. Given last year, I thought that they, you took a look and I thought that they kind of got loose a little bit with a Black Hills team who's not bad defensively, who's pretty good at the line of scrimmage, which kind of probably explained why they limited their running game a little bit. But Pitt's a younger football team right now than we're used to. Fair amount of seniors have gone, and we've got a lot of new parts. I think almost on offense some enhanced athleticism, if I'm going to be honest. John, how do you see this one playing out? What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I've liked a lot of what I've seen from Pitt. You guys kind of talked about it on the Sunday show, but the quarterback adds a new dimension. Karan Parchman is a really good receiver out there. They've got some returners at running back with Chandler and some other guys, but and I've never doubted that Pitt defense really. There's a reason I still have them in my top 25. I don't have them as high as the poll itself does, but they're one of the top 20 or so teams in the country. I don't think you can argue that despite their record. And I just think Green Valley is probably one of the top 10 teams in the country, and it's a tough road trip to Pitt. We saw that last year with Ferris having to make that trip and go there. But I think Grand Valley's probably too much in this game. I think they're a little bit more ready to take that step and be I'm not 100% sure that they're up there with Ferris and Harding yet, but I think they're in that next tier, and I think that's a tier probably above where Pitt is right now. So I'm going to go against the comments, and I'm going to pick Grand Valley in this one.
Good point about the comments. I would say prevailing here is Pitt. Now, obviously,
we are in
MIAA Weekly. I get that, but we're going to have some overlap with some others. Joe's got an interesting comment here. Like I posted, it's a coin flip game, but the coin is blue on both sides.
Oh, Joe.
I think what I take from what I've seen so far is, okay, a team I've seen plenty of 2 weeks now, Black Hills State. Yeah. I saw them against Sioux Falls. They were not able to run the ball against a very physical Sioux Falls front. Grand Valley had the same thing happen where they held Black Hills to 20 yards rushing or whatever it was. And they gave up 359 yards in the air, which is more than Sioux Falls did, but Sioux Falls gave up plenty also. And Black Hills did a lot of quick passes. They weren't holding on to the football terribly long. And they have a star receiver for Black Hills, don't get me wrong. TJ Chuckwar, who's probably in the top of the stand, in the stats right now nationally. But Pitt's got some speed. And Barry, I think, can sling it a little bit. I think Pitt is creating an offense that's going to be more one that we're going to talk about than the way we did last year. Because, John, we didn't talk about their offense in a real positive light last year. We thought that was kind of the thing that held back that football team because we thought they were a pretty good squad defensively.
Yeah, I was higher on Dotson than some in the MIAA were. But
admittedly, I wasn't.
He was that game manager type, and Barry's definitely got a little bit more juice to him, which is makes it interesting.
Yeah, so I actually have Pitt finding the pay window here. I think this is going to be a fantastic game.
I like it.
I think it's going to be a 31-27 kind of game, but I think Pitt at home, I feel like it's time for them to win a football game here.
I think the jungle factor is something to factor in, just like if this game was at Allendale. Man, if these two teams start playing every year, that's a fun, like both of those environments are.
I don't have the same pick if they're at Grand Valley.
No, yeah, absolutely. But I'm just saying if this can be a rivalry where those fan bases go back and forth, that's fun. I could easily see it happening. I'm not a huge fan of those helmets either, but I just love the normal Pitt helmets. That's more why.
Okay.
Than the Gorilla. I just think it's hard to see what it is from if you're not as close as we are right now to it, by the way. But that was just my thought. I know you discussed it already.
By the way, one quick last thought about this is in the MIAA, teams Pitt State has the band playing.
Yeah.
While the other team has the football. And I don't love that, but it is what it is. And Grand Valley, I have a feeling that's going to affect them.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of a different thing. Now they're used to playing in stadiums that are loud. They play in, frankly, ones that are even bigger than Pitt.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just have a feeling that that's going to affect them a little bit with a young signal caller and offense. So I think that's one thing there that might be nearly as important as the home field advantage.
You're almost swaying me on this because the other factor is
It's too late. Your picks are already in.
I'm
We
sticking with
wrote
my
yours in
pick,
pen. There's no pencil here.
but it's just so hard to see a team as good as Pitt losing 3 in a row, even with that schedule. They're a really good football team. So I'm sticking with Grand Valley, but this one wouldn't surprise me either way.
Missouri S&T, the
This
Miners,
one would surprise me if it went the other way.
going on into St. Joe to play the Griffins. What do you think here? Do you think Mo West is just a flat out better football team from what you've seen so far? What's your take?
That Mo West is a flat out better football team. There's a lot of connections with this group. Missouri S&T's coach, I'm blanking on his name now. I still got softball, I guess. But he was a former assistant. Tyler Fenwick hired him when he was at Missouri S&T. He was actually the head football coach and coached at Missouri Western, but he was the offensive line coach at Missouri Western and then coached at Central High School in St. Joseph. So he's got connection.
Would you like for me to pull up his name now that you've circled the runway a little bit?
Andy Ball, I'm wanting to say. Ball is his last name. I can't think of his first name.
Yes, we can see that. And as you were saying,
anyway, he had a lot of connections there, and obviously Coach Fenwick coached at Missouri S&T. So this is a fun matchup for those guys. I'm never gonna be too mad about a matchup of in-state teams. So having the boys from Rolla come up to St. Joe is fun. I just think this is a mismatch. I think the athletes on Missouri Western side are going to be too much for S&T. I've got Missouri Western by more than a couple scores in this one, maybe like a 20 to 30 point game in this one.
I would agree there.
3 scores.
I would agree. Andy Ball was the correct answer, by the way.
I've still got it, even with softball.
Given the way you rounded the thing around there, I'm not sure
I was
if you ever
trying
had
to think of it the whole time. I'm trying
yes,
to come up with it.
Quite apparent. But now we've got
Chris agrees with us in the comments. So 21.
What was that?
The comments agree. 42-21 in the comments. So 3 scores.
There you have it. The Lopers.
The Lope.
Heading on into Nebraska. Kearney heads on into Fort Hays. Matchup of 2 teams coming off of a real nice win. 2-0 Lopers squad, as we referred to earlier.
Yeah.
Buddy, how do you see this one?
I know we had a comment earlier that this was the game of the week in the MIAA, and I fully agree. I think this is a fascinating game, rivalry game, obviously, Hays and Kearney.
This is a better game than Grand Valley Pitt. Just want to make sure you have that right.
Yeah, it's more.
Carry on, but yes.
Okay, fair, but I don't know. I'm more interested in this, honestly. I could see this game going either way. I've been super high on Hays, and I'm not going to stop being super high on Hays after last week and finding a way against Pueblo. So I'm going to pick Hays in this, but I would not be surprised either way this thing goes down.
I think this is a low-scoring contest. I think Kearney, I think they're trending upward. I like a lot of things about Kearney. I really want to pull the trigger on this one. I really do, but I just can't. I think that Hays has the advantage at quarterback. I think Caleb Heavner is the kind of guy who can. I think he can give them the win there.
I think when push comes to shove, they win a little Heavner run game a whole lot last week, and I think if they get in a pickle, they can do that again. And I think that's a real weapon for them with his size and and all that. Looks like some of those Northern Sun quarterbacks, the Kyle Walljasper. I'm not saying he is Kyle Walljasper around the ball, but gives you a little bit of a QB power, which is fun.
So let's take a look. By the way, there happens to be an asterisk. I'm not sure who put that there. Maybe I did, but now you're 12-4, and my asterisk will be there in protest as the year continues. Why do I have that in protest, John?
This is
for a pick that I made 6 days before the game was played, and yet John is holding out and not giving me credit for UTPB because I switched after he asked for the ultra early pick, where I picked UCO first. Then I went with UTPB 6 days ahead. People in the comments, should Witt get credit for taking Pueblo or UTPB 6 days ahead of time?
This was published and in the public record. And that's
a public record. Our show's a public record.
Exactly. Our show picks can be different. So what are you wanting to be? 11-5? You want to be in second place?
I think I deserve to be.
Okay. Well,
did I not pick the upset?
You won't be in the paper, but you can be on the show. I'll edit it every time.
You think that somebody at the paper, some little old lady, is going to be like, "Nope, he's not 11-5."
Our readership is trending younger every day. I'm completely making that up, but that's
damn right, Reed. Damn right.
Oh, Reed's done.
No, whoa, Reed, you gonna take that from him?
He's dead to me.
Okay, well, so here are the picks. What are some of the things as the master of the puppets that are behind the scenes of these picks? Get some of your observations.
Well, we've got some consensus this week, for sure.
Yes.
Those 3 in the middle, Mines, I have a hard time seeing that upset happening. Western, like I said, I have a hard time seeing that upset happening. Hayes is the one that we're all in agreement on, that I could see UNK finding a way in that. But again, I picked Hayes for a reason. I don't think it'll happen, but that's the one that's unanimous, that's most wrong. Or that's
wrong.
Most potential to be wrong.
Okay.
Northwest is nearly unanimous, and I picked Northwest for a reason. I think they win that game, but it's definitely more of a coin toss than what our pickers have shown there, I would say. And Green Valley's about right. I think they should be the favorite, but I could see a way where you and the Fro are correct on that one as well. And then I think we got some more Central Missouri love than I expected, but I'm okay with it. I could see UCM. UCM's still a mystery. We'll see how they do. So I think the pickers did an all right job as the reigning 6-0 on the screen. I feel okay saying that. But I could see it being a little bit of a crazy week as well.
The 2 top pickers are the guys on this show, but
man, they don't call us the expert for nothing.
Well, in my case, they might. But out of conference tracker, we did that before you had a chance to join, and you were in like the 5th inning.
You did the Tom thing where you just read scores for like half an hour.
Okay, settle for a minute. We went ahead and did this.
Oh, okay.
So we're now, my MIAA was 3-1 this last week. So now we're 7-7 as you're taking a look overall in the conference. So John, that said, let's go ahead and pull back up for a moment.
I was going to say, go back to it and remind me.
What do we have for non-con here?
It's a tough non-con week when you look at that.
So game 1, game 2, game 3.
They're all non-con except Hayes and Kearney. Yep.
Okay.
So, and if you look at my picks, I would have the MIAA going 2-3 in those games, so falling back below 500. And if you look at your picks, you have the MIAA going 3-2 in those games and getting above 500. So
Got it.
You're definitely the MIAA homer on this podcast. So
unlike week 1 when I was going heavy non-MIAA,
well,
came out good for it.
You did pick against Permian Basin, but
we're not re-adjudicating that. But let's move on to the highly controversial.
Are they controversial? Okay.
And by the way, our video crew, our audio, what am I saying? Our crew that does all our graphics threw this together last minute, so there's good chance of a mistake here. But I don't think there actually is. I think we stuck the landing.
I think you did.
John, we're going to do this bit probably, I don't know, every 3 weeks or when we need more material. And so, John, let's go ahead. I take a look here. We're going to go from 10 on up to 1. Let's talk in candid terms here. Washburn 10. I don't see how anybody else is there right now when we compare the entire list.
I already kind of indicated their trench play is what scares the crud out of me. They can throw the ball. That quarterback is pretty good, but they can't block for him, and that's a problem.
Well, Atiba was on earlier with us. You have him no higher than 9 at 2-0. A little bit of slap in the face there. Then we have UCM. We're going to have Lambo on line 2 here in a minute once he sees this slide. What did they do to upset you, John?
They lost to Delta, a team I thought they would beat. Delta's a good team.
Oh, so it's a bit of a revenge thing, a little.
Because they cost me in the pick'em.
Okay, now I'm with it. Okay.
Delta's a good team. I mean, it's more about what the teams above them have already done, and that's a little bit with Atiba too. I was doing this. I'd love to put Southern up more. They're 2-0, but when I look at the teams they played versus the showings that some of these other teams have put out there, I can't move them up any more, I don't think, than that. With Southern and UCM, it's kind of both the same case of I'm not quite sure what we got when we get into conference play. They both could be much higher, especially UCM. I've called them the mystery of the league. They were 5th in my original preseason poll, and I just bumped them down because I've been impressed with what UNK, Emporia, which kind of stayed steady, and then I've been impressed with what Missouri Western's done. So I thought they all deserved the bump.
How many games has Missouri Western played?
They have played 1 as UCM.
Okay,
and they were more competitive with a better football team than UCM was. I think I would take Augie to beat Delta, and Missouri Western probably should have won that game right now. So
I don't know if I wouldn't take Augie to beat Delta right now, but that's
okay. Fair enough. You're more the expert up there than I am.
I've just been a little bit more impressed with what I've seen with Delta overall, but maybe I'm wrong.
It is splitting hairs. Normally when I do this, I do tiers. And honestly, if we were doing tiers, it'd be one big tier, basically.
I was just going to say that there hasn't been a high enough highs or low enough lows either way.
Like I could see UCO ending up in the middle of this pack, and I could see some of the middle of the pack ending up near the top.
I think Reed's got a fair point here. 4 through 8 are about equal.
Yeah,
I could see that stance.
I could see that too, and I would even almost consider throwing Pitt in that. But I don't think we're quite there yet. Obviously, I have them ahead. But I think the middle of the pack is extremely close.
Yeah, these first few weeks of a full blown, when we start to get past this non-con week, we're going to start to see more of that conference games and competition. Now, absolutely. As we move on up there, Northwest at 4.
That's where
so hold on. They got their doors blown off at Mankato.
Yep. Absolutely.
And then they beat the 10th team. So that has them ahead of Nebraska Kearney.
I had them at 4 to begin the season, and I honestly haven't. You said it earlier in the show when I was merely a listener, not a participant. I haven't learned that much about. I've obviously learned how they are going to go at people and and try to utilize their talent. But yeah, they played a really good team and not really bad team, because I think none of the MIAA teams are really bad, but a not very good team, a team they should have beat, and they beat them handily. In that game, I will say, Washburn never took a snap on Northwest side of the 50. That's how dominant that defense was in that game. And Washburn threw for 350 yards the week before. It was against Truman, but their offense was completely shut down by except for one play where a cornerback fell down, and it was a 69-yard touchdown pass to DJ Bell, who I wasn't on at that point, but DJ Bell is a player now for Washburn. Again, they can't block, so that's a problem. But that guy can play. So anyway, that's why I had Northwest there. I agree. 4 through 8, I could see them anywhere in that mix when we wrap up this season.
Well, 1 through 3 are probably similar also. I mean,
yeah,
if you play those, they all play each other. They all probably end up with 1 win.
Yeah, that could be where we're headed, especially with the potential injury issues at UCO right now. So yeah, I'm not ruling that out at all. These are really hard to do. Like I said, that was the title of my column, was the hardest power rankings I've ever done. Because there have been years when I've done these every single week. And then last year I did them like once every 3 weeks, maybe, because the every weeks they weren't changing too much.
Right.
And these were the ones I struggled the most with, because UCM could be way higher. Northwest could be lower. UNK could still be lower. I mean, they played good teams, but no world beaters. So I think the MIAA is going to be a step up in competition from what they've had so far. So we'll learn a lot when they play Hayes. Yeah, a lot of these teams. Emporia could be up or down from where they are. I have no idea on them right now. There's just a lot of questions.
Well, that's why we'll only look at this, John, maybe like once a month-ish.
Yeah.
Just because otherwise it's going to be, constantly moving up or down, depending on the waves of the ocean each week.
And that was the behind this. I wrote this honestly Sunday night after I watched the Sunday show because of the Pitt conversation, and that was my thought as we kind of move up to number 3 here. Is Pitt's 0-2, and like when you showed the standings earlier, they're at the bottom of the MIAA. But have they really done anything that I didn't expect to begin the year?
Right.
They haven't. I was the Pitt hater, having them at number 3 in the league to begin the year, and that was lower than anybody else. And now I'm higher on Pitt than seemingly a lot of people, because they're 0-2, but they've done what I expected so far. And if anything, they were more competitive with UCO than I thought preseason. Now, some of that has to do with the injuries and all that, but I haven't seen anything from Pitt to make me drop them. Just kind of like the same thing with Northwest. I mean, I expected them to lose to Mankato, and they lost to Mankato. I expected Ferris to beat Pitt, and they beat Pitt, and I expected UCO to beat Pitt. They beat Pitt, even though it was a close game. So I'm kind of, that's why my top 4 are the exact same that I had preseason because of that. I don't think we've had any surprising results among those top 4, except UTB.
DC is coming in with this question. DC, I'm going to need for you to rewind about 60 minutes ago on the show where we plowed this field in pretty good detail as to why we still have them in the top 25.
They are number 20 for me, because I've been telling my rankings with Michigan Tech, so I'll tell my ranking with Pitt. They're 20. I could see them being higher, but I try not to be too much of an MIAA homer in that poll. I know you would argue at times, but I'm
not touching that. That's low hanging fruit there.
I was gonna say you kind of came after me with the Michigan Tech, so
a little bit. We want to make sure that John and I get a chance to thank. First of all, Tiba Bradley for on short notice making time for us to come on the show, tell us a little bit about his Lions squad. between the quarterback play, running back, some of the other guys that they have that are showing out right now. I think they're going to be an interesting ball club to watch this year, and a little bit of a tip up, from what we've seen maybe a year ago.
It's a slow climb at Missouri Southern, but I think he's doing it the right way, and I'm looking forward to listening to you talk to him now that I missed out on that.
Well, I did throw a lot of shade your way, as to be expected while you weren't there.
It's fine.
But we want to make sure, we've got some of these pay platforms, whether it's Flow Sports and the RMAC or the MIAA on Huddle. There's been a fair amount of crossover games with the RMAC so far. And there will be again this Thursday, of course, just for starters, and then some of the others with Mines. But guys, go ahead and there's some good games to be played once again. The MIAA with the non-con here, very interesting football games upcoming. And John, since you weren't around for a good portion of the show, any other things that you had planned on throwing into the show that you didn't have a moment to, or any thoughts other than being head cheerleader for the Vikings?
I will mention, since we didn't quite get to the top of my MIAA rankings, I don't think it's controversial to have UCO after they beat Pitt up there. I know there's some questions with the quarterback and who's going to be the quarterback the rest of the season.
We didn't cover that because we thought it was fairly obvious, but okay.
Jet Huff had an injury, but their run game has continued. It was impressive last year, and it's more impressive this year. So I will say, regardless of who the quarterback is, UCO, I think, is going to be a dang good football team and hard to compete with. But that game against Hayes will be very interesting. It might decide the league. So that's just my little talk on the top two in the power rankings there.
Well, guys, thank you for being patient with us this week. This is obviously an anomaly, and but I do want to put out there that we will be moving towards the MIAA being on Tuesday evenings at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. If John can't make it at that point, then I will tread water until he does. On Monday evenings, we will be doing the NSIC Weekly, 5:30 p.m. Central Time is when we'll go live. Obviously, you can come back and view it at any point there afterwards on any of our different social platforms. Tomorrow evening, we're going to have the RMAC guys. That should be the name of the show, the RMAC guys. I like that.
Oh, that'd be good. AC and Tanner out there.
Yeah, that's actually might be a better name. But the RMAC guys will be coming on, and I want to say they come on a tad later just because of the fact that they're Mountain Time. Tony and I don't believe will be on live. That will probably end up being kind of live to tape, and then we will release that either later tomorrow or early Thursday. Tony's travel comes first, and when he's able to get in, he and I will figure all that stuff out. But remember, there are Thursday night games, though, for sure, though.
I just show up late and make Witt deal with it. Tony actually lets him know he'll be late, so it's nice of him.
Well, you know what? We were able to figure out one way or the other, and I want to thank those in the comments for kind of helping us out for, and adding some content as well. Always appreciate you guys showing up there. But that's all we have for tonight, and have yourself a great weekend of D2 football. Thank you.
Go Lights.